That's good. All right, well, we'll get rocking here. So, first of all, I want to thank everybody for coming tonight, okay? Some of you are brand new to chiropractic. Some of you have been to chiropractors before. I understand you have as well. You know. And you way back when. Yeah. And Bryce, you're totally brand new. And
well, kind of. I went one a long time ago, Andrew, but you're really I'm brand new.
Okay. We'll call you the chiropractic version. Yeah. The chiropractic version, eh? Yeah. So the whole reason I do this tonight is so you get information to get a result quicker. Because I find people that know what's going on with their healthcare get a better result. And that's why we're going to do this tonight. It's why I'm not here instead of being at home with my kitties and all of that. I think it's really important, especially when you come to the chiropractor's office, because it's new to some people. And we do things a little bit differently in our clinic. I think they're better, but you might disagree, and that's okay. I'm not here to tell you what to think. But I want you to understand what we're about, how we can help you, and then you can go, this is great, this is cool, I want more, and let's do it. Or whatever you think, it doesn't matter. But I think it's important that we understand and have a kind of a meeting of the minds, if you like. So I'm going to ask some questions, and you, Faye has heard some of these questions recently, and but it'll be some new, some repeat for you both. But I think it'll be very helpful. Okay. So first of all, I ask everybody when I do this, who wants to live to be 100?
I don't know.
Sure. Not feeling like I do, no.
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
It's fascinating. Every time I open a talk with that, I get that reaction. Yeah, no way, I can't imagine, and all in between. So what you have to think about is there some things in your health you want to change? Because the challenge is that we as a human race are living longer than ever before. Irrefutable statistical evidence. More people living to be 100 than any other time in history. But the problem is the quality of life, to use a vernacular, sucks with a lot of people. So nobody wants to be 75, 85, 95 if you're not doing what you love or you can't because your body's not with you. And it's not too late for anybody to make a change in here tonight. But what you gotta understand is that approaching health with the motto in mind, and I talked about this to your group, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It doesn't work. And if that is what motivates you, I say this tongue in cheek, but it's true. Go and visit a nursing home. Because that era of people lived their life that way. Took better care of their automobiles and their cars than they do their bodies. Take a tune-up, spend money on oil change, doing nothing to your body until it's really disgustingly broken down, and then let's try to fix it. So, is everybody on board who wants to make a change?
Yes.
Okay. What is it you want to live to be 80, 90 to 100 for?
To enjoy life.
To enjoy life. Some people want to golf. Some people want to travel. So I don't know what your why is. We talked about this at your group. You have to get connected to what makes you, what is your why?
Yes, to really see my grandchildren and great-grandchildren.
And your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren. If you don't change your health, it's probably not going to be fun. So whatever, I'm not going to ask you to volunteer your why. You can answer it to yourself. But that's why you're here, I think. And that's what we want to help you do is get your body healthy on the inside, and then you can have a healthy quality of life for as long as God willing you want, whatever that number is. So, statistically though, they used to tell us too, they being researchers, chiropractors, doctors, that our healthcare was all based, did you get an ice pack?
No.
Do you mind to get this lady an ice
I
pack?
forgot about it, yeah.
That our healthcare was all based on genetics. Meaning if my father has the gene for prostate cancer, I guess I'm going to get it too and come screwed. So I'll just eat like crap because, hey, out of my hands, right? Or my parents have the gene for a heart condition, so I guess I'm going to get it. Or my parents have the gene for rheumatoid arthritis, guess I'm going to get it. I'm screwed, it's out of my hands.
Thank you.
But what we know for a fact now is they used to tell us genes were 80% of our health outcomes. It's probably less than 20% of your health outcomes. Probably 15, 10%.
Right here? Yeah, yes, yeah, that's perfect.
So that's okay. So that what's more important is your choices. Meaning, I always use the example, if I put 20 men in a room who had the gene for prostate cancer, probably only 1 out of the 20 is going to express prostate cancer. So how come the other 19 who have the gene didn't?
Tony?
Lifestyle choices. That's what I mean. What did you see chiropractor? What were you thinking like? Those things turn the gene off or on. Those let the gene off or on. So that's really empowering, I think. To understand that concept, that your health is in your own control. It's not somebody else's. It's not you're not a slave to what's inside. That doesn't mean either that shit doesn't happen or things can go wrong unexpectedly. But I mean, in general terms, you really can control a lot of your health outcomes and what you're going to be like if you want to. So it's rhetorical, but what side of the tree do you want to be as you age? Right? And what side of the tree do we want our kids and our family and everyone else to be? So here's my advertisement to you. I'm going to do advertisements because I want to help more people, but I'm going to help advertisements just because it's not what you develop. Your kids are right there. Don't leave them at home to develop the problems that you've got. We should take care of our spines like we do dentists taking care of our teeth, only chiropractors taking care of my spine. As long as you use it, take care of it, and it'll be there for you. But that's the way we approach it in our office. That's the way I grew up with it too. So father is a chiropractor, still in practice. He's 52 years in. Doing his thing, just like you, Bryce, doing your thing. So I've grown up and I've seen what happens when you do it regularly, how healthy you can be. As I told your group, when I put this slide up, I'm not going to give the sex talk. There's a sperm and an egg there. I think we're all pretty clear on how that stuff works. But I do bring this up here because I want to talk for a second about where health comes from. Where does health come from? Anybody want to volunteer? Where does good health come from?
I have no idea what you're looking for.
Good, clean living, I guess, doesn't it?
Yes, for sure. I agree, right?
Eating properly.
Yeah. What is that doing is it's affecting the inside of us. Your health's on the inside. Your body needs to be strong on the inside. What I mean by that is, let's just say, for example, I use analogy. If I cut myself, 3 days later, what's supposed to happen to a healthy cut?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's supposed to scab. You didn't tell it to, did you? You didn't tell white blood cells to go to the area. You didn't tell fibrous clots to form there. Your body's supposed to fix that. Was it a bandage that did that? Did you get lucky and have the right bandage on there?
No.
Right? So anything you can do, like Bryce said, to strengthen the inside of your body to heal, you want to do it, the inside of your body. Good nutrition, proper thoughts, a healthy nervous system. It's a big thing. It controls everything. So anything you can do internally to strengthen your body is going to make you a healthier person. It's going to affect your relationships, isn't it? It's going to influence everything around you. So when you're little and mom, the very first thing developed too is what we would call the notochord, and now we call it the spinal cord. But that's the first thing to develop because it's that important. And these yellow nerve buds grow off it, connecting it to everything in your body. So that spine, that backbone that brought you in here is very important for your health on the inside of your body. Most of the time we think of your spine if it hurts. And if it doesn't hurt, you probably don't think of it, right? But we'll explain why that's really not a healthy way to approach this. Does that make sense to people where health comes from? Okay? George Burns? Do you know? You got it. Okay. So this is what we're talking about for a sec here. If I haven't done this with you before, bear with me here, but wiggle your fingers for a sec. Just play with me here. You can do that. Good. Okay. You can stop. And you can wiggle your toes. Okay. Can you blink your eyes? Can you you can feel your heartbeat if you push hard enough on your left side? They say that's where your heart is. You can feel that beat, right? Do you have to tell your lungs to expand and contract right now to exchange the oxygen? You have to tell your stomach if you're swallowing tea or coffee or you had a snack that it's time to secrete some acid so my stomach breaks down the food. You have to tell it that. When you look at me and there's a visionary process going to the rods and the cones to the cerebral cortex and flips it around inside of your brain, it's unbelievably complicated just to get an image. Do you have to tell your brain to do that right now? Okay, now it's doing it all at once. It's incredibly complicated. It makes, as I say every week, it makes computers look like Legos. So what has to happen is your brain has to communicate through the spinal cord, and it, just like the skull protects your brain, the vertebrae have to protect the spinal cord. But when it comes time to wiggle your toes, it actually shot over 300 kilometers an hour down your spine, out these nerves, and then it shoots down and contracts your legs so you can wiggle your toes. Sciatic nerve tells your toes what to do. And then it has to shoot back up into your brain, the other opposite side of your brain, if it's the left leg, tell your part of the brain, my leg contracted, and it did what I wanted it to do. But it's doing that all the time through these passages, like lightning speed. But there has to be a pathway, and so these nerves also have to tell the bowel and the bladder what to do, the sexual organs. The nerves also have to tell the lungs what to do, the heart what to do, your eyes to blink, stomach, pancreas, it's all working, so it's coming in and going out like this, all the time, just like firing, like amazing. So here's the deal. What will happen, I love these things. What will happen if I cut the nerve to your bowel right now? If I walked inside your body and cut the nerve to the bowel, what would happen to your bowel?
Mess.
A mess, exactly. A mess, literally. Your bowel would stop working, wouldn't it? So here's what happens to patients. These vertebrae subluxate, or we call it go out of alignment, and they do that to the nerve. And you can walk around like that for a long time, years in some cases, but you don't have a whole lot of what with it. You don't have a whole lot of pain with it. So, am I right? So you just, I would say, yeah, it's a bit stiff, or I'll put up with it, that's not a big deal, I'll take an aspirin, I'll finish the round of golf, whatever it is. Meanwhile, would you do that if you knew that vertebrae was decreasing the nerve message to your bowel like 50% or 60% or 40%? I don't know. But that's what's going on in your body. So how can your bowel, what will happen to the bowel if it's getting half of a proper nerve supply from your brain to your bowel? What do you think the bowel's going to be like?
Sluggish.
Constipated, thank you. More often than not. What pill? I don't know what they tell people to take for that, but there's probably a pill for constipation. All kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
What happens if you cut the nerve that's going into the bladder? Oftentimes men blame it on, I got a prostate problem, that's why I have to pee 3 or 4 times a night. Women blame it on, I've had kids, my pelvic floor muscles are weak, I gotta do more Kegel exercise. I can't tell you how many times I've seen this. And yeah, we use our hands, we find where the person has vertebrae that's subluxated, and we start.
You can feel that through the skin.
We can feel that through the skin. And the scans help us too, but mostly through our fingers.
Yeah.
And we start getting the pressure off the nerve. The nerve message is allowed now to flow or send the right signal in. And guess what happens again? Prostate problems don't necessarily go away that I know of, but all of a sudden the bladder works better. This is getting the right nerve supply. So the nerves tell the opening of the bladder, like a big sac, to open and close better on men and women. All the time. I have a gentleman who was in his early 80s. He was wearing Depends. He didn't want to leave his house anymore because it was embarrassing. Since we've been adjusting them, it's cleared up. So you see, though, the importance of allowing the brain to talk to the body. I have a little kid in here, a gentleman, he's like, Keith is he 6 or 7? He's autistic. he's a wonderful little kid, and they don't like you touching him. So finally his mom thought we should check him, and I managed just over the course of many visits to get it close enough to put my fingers on him that he could get used to me, and so on and so on. A month later, he wasn't speaking before he came. We've adjusted him like twice a week now. He speaks now. He looks at you in the face when he talks to you. He used to be like an autistic kid. It's incredible the change that are happening in this kid, because his brain and his body I actually have a pathway to talk now. Now, scientifically, I probably couldn't tell you exactly what happened for sure, but I can tell you his brain and his body are talking better in simple terms. I know that's what's going on. And this kid's forming sentences. He looks people in the eye. He listens. It's amazing. But that happens all the time, and it's things you don't put this together. And he's not even telling his mom he's in pain, but when I checked him, boys, I could sure feel where he's been out of alignment, because they do certain things repetitively with their bodies. Something he wasn't hitting his head, but some of them do. What's that going to do? You know what I mean?
Well, childbirth alone can be
Childbirth, yes, incredibly difficult. That's why you need to get kids checked, and we'll talk about that, but for sure.
Yeah.
So can you see then how a neck problem might affect the nerves down into what? What do they call that and what do they do surgery on the wrist all the time?
Yeah.
Do you know how many people I've seen, they get that done, they still got the symptoms going on? They come in, we work on their neck a little bit, and guess what happens? So there's just a whole lot of connections here I can make, that sciatic things to the legs, pulled muscles on the legs, shin splints in the legs, growing pains in kids, but you don't connect that to the spine because you're thinking it's got to be back pain related. But it doesn't.
Growing pains? Really?
Growing pains.
I was plagued with them.
Yeah. Because if you really think about it, what they tell us research-wise, it's the weight of a dime. Do you know how much a dime weighs? It's about the contact weight if you're putting a contact in. That much weight from the vertebrae and the nerve roots is all it takes to decrease the message by 50%.
Wow.
Weight of a dime. 50. So there's a whole lot here that can happen if our kids are playing hockey, ring and football, which they should. I love it. I'm not saying they shouldn't. I'm just saying things happen. So when you're sitting here as an adult, and maybe you did those sports, or around here a lot of people work very physical jobs at a young age, or helped out in the fishery, or I'm from a farming community, so everybody farmed at a young age. That's just what you did, and I don't grudge that. That's what we did. But when you're 13 and you're lifting bales of hay, there's a real good chance it's probably going to affect and short circuit something in your spine. So you grow up with these problems, you get used to it. You do what you got to do to get through the days you think it's normal.
Yeah.
Normal headaches. I could go on. You know how many people say I get normal headaches, Doc? What are you talking about normal? There's no such thing as normal headaches. You shouldn't get headaches unless you drink too much, which that can happen. But that's not normal. So it's just really, really important to understand what's going on in your spine, and it's a much bigger thing mostly than most of us ever dream of. Does that make sense? Okay. So Lorinda, you alluded to this. How do vertebrae subluxate? How do they go out of alignment? I think that's important to know. So you can minimize, not that you want to stop living and doing things, but you want to be aware of what you're doing to yourself, right? So how can we stop this process from happening or minimize its effect? It's to understand how it happens. And certainly this is point number one, why kids should be checked. And if you lay on the floor, I put steel clampers on your face and pull. That's forceps delivery, let alone when the bones are cartilage and there's no muscle development at all yet. Babies can't hold their heads up if we're doing this, right? So that's traumatic on a very developing spine. Those children typically will scream and cry uncontrollably, and somebody calls them what?
Colic.
Meanwhile, you can typically go back and see a history like that. Or they've been C-sectioned, and if you've ever seen a C-section, it's not gentle. It's like a big plunger from a bathroom, and it's on the head, and the baby is pulled out of the mouth. So to adjust a baby, by the way, if you're wondering, it's fingertips. It's very little. And usually, before they leave the office, if that's what's going on, they stop crying. It's that dramatic, because these are the kids that, for example, maybe the mom will have difficulty breastfeeding on one side or the other. Because if you imagine that, if you've ever had a really sore neck and you've tried to turn,
Yes.
you get, like, how can you go on one side or the other?
Both my sons were C-section. Both my boys, they're in their late 30s, are complaining about the same back issues I now have.
Well, you tell me where they are, and I'll get them to a chiropractor when we're done here. But they need to get checked, because these things they're not going to go away on their own. And then the other thing is I'll go speak to, if parents allow me into the schools, I like to talk to them about kids and spines and what they should be aware of.
So you go to the schools.
If the teachers will have me, I'll go in for science class. But anyway, I'll ask them who gets headaches. Guess how many people put their hands up in these classes, whether 8 or 9-year-old kids? Half the class at least. Half the class. Next question, what do you do for your headaches? What's Johnny do for his headaches? Really? So what are we teaching our kids? The culture. Quick fix. Get rid of it now. I'm not well, so I must have to need a chemical. It's very contradictory. So that slide that I was making fun of the sperm and the egg, that's really important. Understand where it all comes from. So that you eat right, so that you know maybe there's something out of alignment. Maybe it's not a pill every time that you need in your body. So it's very important, I think, to understand that. So these things can happen in life, and if you're sitting at a computer all day long, there might be some things we need to talk to you about your desk. You still get to sit at a computer because you got to do your job. I get that. Just like I got to bend over all day to do my job. But there's things I'll do, like you can do to minimize the impacts. And individually, if there's a sport maybe you like to do, like I'm saying golf, but maybe as a mom that you get to sit on the floor and play with your kids' life. Maybe there's something we need to talk about, so when you sit on the floor, there's a good or a bad way to do it. Those are the things that individually, myself or Dr. Kristen or my wife, Dr. Wanda, will sit down and we'll talk to you, so that you know, hey, let's minimize it. I got to do it. I want to be there with my kids. I can't stand up anymore, but there's a good and a bad way to do it, or golf, or what have you. So we'll talk about that individually, so that you can minimize the effects to your spine. Does that make sense? Okay. So, I mean, these are just some things that happen to us over time. If you do very physical work, that'll obviously affect you. But interestingly enough, my experience is the more sedentary jobs are almost harder on you. The more we sit, it has a real host of problems on our spines. But anyway, if you're unfortunate enough that you had an accident or a car accident, that could certainly affect things, of course. Fall off a roof, I mean, that's traumatic to the spine. That's going to put you out of alignment, right? But for the most part, there's been an accumulation or a story behind how people get to where they got to the place one day, Doc, I went to tie my shoe, my back went out. Healthy backs don't do that, right? That was the straw that broke the camel's back. It's engineering. It gave way because for 30 years it's been out of alignment. The tissues finally gave way enough that it decided to tell you out. But that wasn't the day it started, that was just the final insult that made the thing.
I'm a perfect case of that.
Yeah, most are, Bryce. You're not unusual.
Yeah, I just reached, and I put my back up several times before, but it only lasted a couple, 3 days, and then when I get back to normal again. But this time I just reached like that. And boom.
When you say that you put your back out, what does that mean exactly?
Well, what it means is that
Because from what you've told me, my neck is just a mess, right? Like, but I haven't actually had an impact, or it
No.
doesn't like go on me like that or anything.
no, but over time, all of these little injuries, insults,
Yeah.
there's ligaments, there's muscles around, they get stretched, they get weakened, so the vertebrae will go a little bit more out of alignment, a little bit more out of alignment, a little bit more out of alignment. It might hurt a bit, but you know, like you say, a couple of days and some ice and an aspirin or lie on the couch,
Yeah.
the pain goes away, but it's still out of alignment.
Yeah.
You do it again, only goes even more out of alignment. So, and then the next time it's like a week this time before the pain goes away. And then the next time it's actually a month, and then the next time you're screwed.
So it's not really getting better.
It's never getting better. The
It's
symptoms
not
go away.
symptomatic, right?
Thank
that
you.
point.
Okay, that's where
Yeah.
it is when you throw your back out.
The symptoms just get acute.
Okay, okay.
So is the pain a direct result of the thing goes out of alignment, but it jams a nerve?
Yes. And it jams the nerve, and actually what happens is inflammation is a chemical response. There's a chemical response inside your body that creates inflammation, which causes pain, which affects the nerve, which goes to your brain. So what analgesic medication does, or what ice does, is it'll interfere with that loop. It actually chemically stops the chemical events that create inflammation. So it's like cutting the chemical line of reactions. So the pain goes away, but you can still sit there with the problem and not feel it.
So the nerve's not getting trapped in it.
The nerve's still
Tight,
getting trapped, it's just
swollen
not
area.
inflamed or swollen as much anymore. So take the swelling down, take the inflammation down sometimes, so that you can not have any feeling anymore that it's there. Does that make sense? Okay? It's like, what is pain? What is pain? That's just real quickly, what's pain for? What's your body tell you there's
It's a
pain?
warning.
It's a
Careful.
warning. Yeah, be careful. If I keep bending this and I ignore the pain, what's gonna happen?
You'll dislocate it.
Bust it. So that's, you override the pain thing with medication that's strong enough. Okay? But if you just ignore the pain, it's like the engine light in your car comes on. If you put tape over the engine light and keep driving, what's gonna happen? Eventually, the thing's gonna bust, overheat, it's gonna go boom on you. That's the part, that's the quick fix part that we try to override. Gotta keep going. Don't have time for it. Gotta, you know, take these, pop, pop, fizz, fizz, overleaf, you know, all that stuff. It's marketed that way. There's no shortcuts. You folks know that. Anybody, this is a compliment, not a knock on aging. Anybody who's lived longer than me knows that more than I do. This is just, there's no shortcuts. You know this stuff. It's just that when it's applied to healthcare, I know a little bit more, but you see it all the time in life. There's no way to get around things quicker, get there, right? So, and here's the thing, this is what happens if we've ignored it or no one's recommended to go to a chiropractor, or you live with it, or it's whatever, is it degenerates. That's what happens, the thing will degenerate. So it should be that normal, it ends up like that's phase 2. You see the discs, the cushions in that neck, the front and the back. That's phase 3 degeneration. You see the bony spurs, and it's quite narrow. This is phase 4 degeneration.
Oh,
Thank you.
thank you. Someone who knows they're doing a little more than me.
You're a very empathetic person. Good for you.
Should I get,
Here,
get
yeah.
Oh, thank you.
So the gist of it is that process, if your alignment's correct and the vertebrae aren't subluxated and out of alignment, this won't happen. These joints in the back have to move. So part of the thing we do when we adjust you is we get it opened again, the pressure off the nerve, but we also get it moving. We get it moving. Because these joints are like a hinge. If you don't move a hinge, what happens to it?
It's rusted.
Seizes up, rusts. That's what arthritis is. That's what's going on here. You can see the little old man or woman that never went to the chiropractor, either because they didn't know or because they thought they were witch doctors, whatever. But unfortunately, they're like this. They just dry up. It's hard to help. So, according to what phase you are too, in a second or two, we're going to get to how long we think you need to do this over the next 6 months, how many visits, and those kinds of things. But this is some of the things that help us dictate what it's going to do. So you see, if you're in line and your vertebrae are in line, think another simple analogy that helps. It's like if the tires of the car are in line, how do the treads wear? Pretty evenly, don't they?
Yeah.
And if they're out of alignment, how do the treads wear? That's what we're talking, biomechanics. So that is really 90% of it anyways is avoidable. 10% of it's
So-
genetic.
Can you still do something for someone who's in stage 4 or?
Oh yeah, we work on these people all the time. You'll see them coming and going in here. It's quality of life. We don't have a magic wand, but you can help them stay mobile, stay independent as long as you can. That's what you want to do with people.
But what happens to the pad? Cause in 4, it looks like the pad has been
Yeah,
totally eroded.
Yeah, it can be. That's tough to deal with, but you do your best you can to keep them mobile, keep the pressure off the nerve, so that body can at least work with as little pressure on the nerve as you can. You do different adjusting ways. I mean, I'm not going to work on you like I would someone 95 who's osteoporotic and all those kinds of things.
Mhm.
Just like a baby, you do it differently.
Okay.
Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Because another thing, if it's just normal aging, all these are the same age. Are they not? They should all look that way if it's just because I'm getting old.
Mm-hmm.
And like I was telling you, Bryce, I think that's a lot of bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
People get told, oh, you're just older, you gotta live with it. And it sucks to have arthritis, doesn't it? Oh, well, it's the golden years,
Yeah.
take these, go home and swallow them.
Yeah, except I'm 33, and that one there looks like what you just showed me, so,
We get work to do.
yeah.
So don't settle for things. I see things in here that would blow your mind. I don't have the fountain of youth. I'm not telling you this is some miracle. I'm not filling smoke up you know what. But I'm telling you, you get told and sold a bill of goods, and you limit yourself. You don't even recognize you're doing it.
Yeah.
So I believe one of my roles perhaps is to tell you, think bigger, think longer, stretch your brain, because it is possible.
Arthritis in the neck, can that be fixed or?
Well, that's what we're talking about here,
Yeah,
Bryce.
I know, but you know, if someone's being diagnosed with arthritis in the neck and pretty well told, hey.
Okay, let me put it this way. Here's an example of arthritis in the low back. Same thing, just different place in the spine. The lady's like close to 80. She comes in on a stroller, 2-stroller. Her friend told her to come up, try the chiropractor. She's like, well, nothing else has been working, I'll do it. So she comes up. We start working with her 3 times a week. We go on. The months go on. Her spine's full of arthritis. That's what she's been told. You know, you're never going to walk again. You're going to lose your home. All of that. Fast forward 2 months later, she comes to the front door without a walker. She's walking in on her own.
Okay.
She booked a trip on an airplane to go see a family member in Toronto that she didn't think she was going to see before she passed. She's got the same amount of arthritis she did before we started care as she does now. So how much I'm doing with the arthritis, I don't know, but I don't think she cares either.
But she's more in alignment.
She's in line, she's mobile, she's functioning again. So, does that answer your question? Okay, you'll start moving better. Now, by a natural result, if you're moving again, arthritis will stop, slow down. It won't degenerate anymore, or it'll slow it down. Research shows us that if your joints are immobilized, like what do they do after you have a hip surgery? If you've left your back gets so bad that you're out of alignment and no one told you otherwise, and you walk around anyways, eventually you're going to need a hip replacement. So, but that aside, you get a hip replaced. How soon do they get you moving?
Immediately.
Immediately. That's what you got to do. See, we've been saying that forever as chiropractors. 50 years ago, 40 years ago, 30 years ago, 20 years ago, what did they tell you if you hurt your back?
Rest.
Go to bed.
Go to bed.
It's the worst thing you can do. Most of the time. Now, there's exceptions to every rule, but 98% of the time, the worst thing you can do to a joint is to immobilize it. So if you have some arthritis and you know and you're trained as a chiropractor, is the very best thing you can do is to adjust it, immobilize it, get it moving, get the hinge going. That's why you're going to need someone like that. And as soon as you can, we'll get you swimming, we'll get you walking, we'll get you doing some exercise so you get moving. Does that help? Good. So this is self-explanatory too. Excuse me. There's nothing wrong with medications. Okay, first of all, I'm going to say that. My mom, in fact, takes high blood pressure medication. Chiropractic often helps with that. My dad suggested her forever, and it hasn't. She needs medication. Now, having said that, if you're living though with your head in the sand, ignoring things, and just popping pills, you need to wake up. It's going to kill you. It will kill you. There's over 120,000 reported deaths from properly prescribed medication every year in North America. The the right drug at the right time, the right indication, they die anyways. 6% of the world lives in North America, yet we consume over 66% of the prescribed medication. And our health outcomes in the Western worlds are near the bottom. So yes, there's a time and a place, and I work with people that absolutely need medication. What I'm talking about is make sure you're one of those people, and there's no other way before you get to that place. That's all. So when you approach chiropractic care or cardiac care or dental care or take your pick care, anything in healthcare, this is where we come from in our office. We're going to encourage you to do a lot of self-care. Self-care doesn't cost any money. You just need to do it. So what might be self-care?
Proper diet.
Proper menu. I like menu. I don't like diet because diet
Yes.
implies
Proper living.
eating right. Menu.
Yeah.
This is a book we have.
I love it.
We can sell you all kinds of cool superfoods, the right foods to eat, whatever. I'm sales pitching, but I'm just telling you. It doesn't. You can eat right on your own. You just have to eat more veggies. It's common sense. Put the chips away. That's me.
That's even
That's
right.
me.
I'm a chipaholic.
Yes,
I admit it.
right.
I try not to have them in the house. Definitely a bad thing for me. Anyway, what else is self-care? Doesn't cost you money. You can do for yourself.
Exercise.
Yes. Go for a walk. Swim. Whatever. Whatever. It doesn't cost a lot. You don't have to have a gym membership and new gear and fancy shoes. Just gotta get moving. That's all you gotta do sometimes. Just get moving. Go for a walk at lunch. I'm done. It's lunch break. I'm going for a walk. I'm gonna take care of myself. Because I know I need my body if I want to live to be 80, 90, 100, and I want to have a good quality of life. So screw it, I'm shutting up office for 20 minutes and going for a walk. That's taking care of yourself, to me. Put you first. So, anyway, you do a lot of self-care. Then healthcare, you can't do it to yourself. Like a friendly chiropractor has to work on your neck. Hopefully you're not going to try that on your own. You go to your physician for for well checkups, your blood work, your things you need to do regularly. You go to your dentist, you go to an optometrist. That's healthcare. Lots of self-care, regular, less healthcare. And the odds are in your favor, overwhelmingly stacked. You should be able to avoid that. Sometimes poop can happen, no matter what. And it just does. And we all know situations where it does. But for the odds, which is what we're talking about, and what works, which is what I've seen for 18 years, that's the way you do it. But it's flipped upside down in the system, right? Nobody's talking about seeing your chiropractor regularly or doing things regularly or walking regularly. They're all like, let's wait. First heart attack, time to change my lifestyle. That's what that is. The system's a sick care system. You've probably heard this before. But you know what I mean? It's not a healthcare system. So anyway, you can control that. That's a good story though. It's a good story because you're in control of that. You don't need anybody else to do it for you. So when you start with our office, we're going to meet you where you are. Some people we meet are here and they want to be healthier and better, faster, longer, quality life. And we're meeting you where we are. Some people, we meet them because they have a crisis, and we start with the crisis. Whatever it is where we meet you. But typically, in the beginning, for the sake of this discussion, we need to get adjusted often to make a change. And usually it's 3 times a week in the beginning. Because what happens when we adjust you, I need some water.
Cool, then I was going to get you to put it down, because I need to take your picture while you're speaking one particular night, and tonight's the night. So if you see the flash behind you, it's just because I'm taking down
They're
your
Montreal
pictures.
Canadians.
You carry on, pretend I'm not hearing you.
Turn it around.
Turn it around.
I love it. I love it.
So where was I again?
You need
So
to
when
get-
you start with care, usually here, it's 3 times a week in the beginning. Because we're adjusting it, he wants to go back. And some of you have recognized that from Friday till today. Because it just, you felt great Friday, Saturday, Sunday was okay, Monday you felt that again, and Tuesday, blah, it's too long. That's because that's what's going on in your body. We've got to change a pattern there. Eventually, that won't matter. And you'll be on a hopefully decide that you wanna do this regularly and you wanna get adjusted and you come every couple of weeks or something like that. But in the beginning, you need to do this often to get to that place. And so the first month or two, depending on if you're phase 1, 2, or 3, or 4, which is no phase 4s tonight, would dictate how often we need to do that from a month to 2 months. We'll talk about that in a second. The middle part of the care, we would call it rehab care, if you like. And that's where probably about month 3, 4, 5, 6, which is a 6-month program for everybody here tonight, we're adjusting you less. Your symptoms will probably be either negligible or much decreased, or we're following through on regular adjustments to get it to stay. Because some people decide after that crisis part or the initial I feel good part, I think I'll just stop then because I feel good. And that's your decision to make, not mine. But you have to know if you take the braces off your teeth too quick, what's probably going to happen. Okay? So that's why we follow through with the adjustment schedule through these last few months. And it's also why during this phase, this picture reminds me, we're going to be showing you exercises that you need to do. Stretching that you need to do, strengthening that you need to do. Not me, I'm not going to do your push-ups for you. It's good for business if you don't do any exercise. You get what I'm saying? So we'll talk about that when the time's right, but for most of us, to get right into exercising when your spine's not that healthy yet, it's problematic or it's sore. If you're already been seeing a chiropractor, which I understand you might have been, and you're relatively healthy in the spine, you might be already ready to do some of those things. But that's an individual game, and the chiropractors will tailor it according to what your needs are. Does that make sense? Okay. So the last part of care, obviously the elective part of care, is when you get to that place where we've decided we've finished what we started, and you want to take care of your spine so you have a quality life. Usually, as I was telling you, we start it twice a month or every couple weeks. We can adjust that according to your age, your activity level. I'll drop names here. A good buddy of mine is a chiropractor for the Baltimore Ravens NFL team. Those guys are real hard on your spine. Would you agree? It's a train wreck what they do to their bodies. So their wellness adjustment schedule is going to be a lot more frequent than mine would be or yours would be, because last time I checked, I'm not a professional athlete. So it depends on what you do to yourself, how hard you are. Okay, that makes sense? So your scans, what they mean, we're going to quickly go over that. Miranda, Bryce, Faye.
Thank you.
Try now.
I'll get better at that, I promise. So the first thing is, if you look at the back, you'll see we've circled which vertebrae and where we are, and you can kind of follow them across. You see?
Yes.
Everybody got that? Yep. You can. This is for you to take home, by the way, okay? Then you can see, if you'll take this sheet out, this one, and this one. If you get these two out, we're going to talk about these. And perhaps Audrey will get one of you guys to give me a hand with these ones. So the first, these are tests that we did to check the function of your nervous system.
First one.
Because we can't measure pain very well. I'm going to give you guys a pen in case you want to write something down.
That one, this one.
We'll take it back.
And the colored one and the colored one.
You got one?
Oh, that colored one, okay.
These two first.
Thanks. Thank you very much.
So
Then we'll get to that one.
Okay.
this thermal scan, which is that one,
Oh, okay.
that, and that.
Okay.
Where your spinal cord was inflamed or irritated, you're going to get a heat pattern from the vertebrae affecting it. So how physical, chemical, emotional stresses affect your spine is going to show up here. And you can see that. That's what this one is, the one I just showed you. Does that make sense? Okay.
No, actually, I'm smiling because, when you look at it, I do have a left shoulder problem and I do have a left hip problem.
All up to
And when you look at it, it's
the-
actually pointing exactly.
Correlates very
Yeah.
well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So then there's the muscle one where they put those electrodes on you.
Mhm.
And what that's checking is if the nerves are happy and healthy, they'll tell the muscles what to do appropriately. And if they won't, your muscles can get really tight or weak. So really tight muscles,
I think it's so funny, all my pain is on this side, but what I'm seeing is that it's on the other side.
where you
Is
feel
it
pain is,
overcompensating?
yeah, it's not always where you feel it, where you feel the pain.
Normal muscle.
You can see the tight areas from the, yeah, you already pointed that out to yourself. That's you. The normal is the white bell-shaped one. Vicky, see that normal white one? That's your muscle scan. So sometimes your muscles get, that's a normal one. This, if your muscles aren't getting the right nerve supply, they can be underactive. They can actually be shrunken. You see what I'm saying? That.
Yeah. I'm thinking of color.
So the other one is the imbalance that's created by all that. And these percentages measure what that looks like. You see that? See what I'm saying there? Got that? This one? Okay.
What is that again? I didn't catch, what's
If
the
your
other-
muscles are pulling one side more than the other, you're going to get percentages that are going to show you what that looks like. So what's that going to do to your alignment in the nerves then? You see what I'm saying?
So I don't have enough pulling right to counteract what's pulling left.
Yeah.
You
Exactly.
too.
So what we'll do is when we go to remeasure some of these things, it's going to say, hey, are we getting change? Are we getting things balanced? It's another objective measure. Okay? It's a snapshot in time. It isn't perfect, but it gives us some information on the inside. Then if you go to this one, the colorful one, this is called heart rate variability, and that's where you're sitting there with your finger on that pulse thing. And you're
I
most
was
people.
wondering what that was.
Yeah, you're probably going, "Man, it's my back. What's he doing now, man?" So I'm going to explain this to you. If you go to this one.
Yeah.
What that is called heart rate variability, and it's measuring literally the time between your heartbeats. So if your heart goes lub-dub, what's the time between lub-dubs? Okay? So what goes on is that if I'm chasing you with a knife, fight should kick in. Your sympathetic nerves. Sympathetic's the bottom left. And your heart rate will speed up, so it's less time between heartbeats. If it's time to relax, or to sleep, or heaven forbid have a bowel movement, you want your heart to slow down. You don't want it racing, adrenaline pumping. You can't do those things. So that's parasympathetic. So the distance, you should be in the black line in the midline, as close to that as you can. And you should shoot for the green box. You should be inside that. Most people, when they start care, tend to be a little bit low, and it's not unusual to be a little bit left, living in the fight, flight, stress mode of things.
This is running.
I'm not, thank heavens. I'm on the right, something is right.
So we want to see that move up into the green box. As we adjust you, as your nervous system function improves, we should see that change. Does it make sense to you?
Mm-hmm.
If we go through this process though, and you follow what I'm recommending and Dr. Chris is recommending, and we recheck this, and we don't see this change, what other things might be affecting your heart rate variability?
Something related to the heart, something.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe
Medical or-
there's a heart medic problem. Maybe you need to lose some weight. Maybe you're stressed. Other things will affect that. Okay? Which we can talk about when that time comes. Make sense? So these other two tests we do are more based on the structure of your body. If you want to bring out this one. So what we're measuring here is how you're moving. And then comparing you to normals. And normals aren't great, but it's a starting point. So the white is American Medical Association is the normal. And you are the brown ones.
What?
Lumbosacral's low back, cervical's neck. And then you can see if we are good or if you have work to do, what that looks like.
I didn't get that. Can you say it again?
Yep.
Sorry.
White is the American Medical Association normal.
Okay,
You are the brown ones.
okay.
That's low back, that's neck, and you can see,
What I can move, you mean?
Yes.
My level of motion, okay.
yeah, your level of motion.
Okay.
Okay? So sometimes we have some work to do there, and we'll check that again in a month, 2 months, see what it's looking like. The last one that we checked on people